My name is Lina Castanos, and I will be moderating today's webinar. I will begin by introducing the Capital Pathways program. Then I will introduce myself and give the word to our guest speaker, Jamie Diane, QuickBooks Pro Advisor, who will introduce herself and take us through a presentation on QuickBooks 201, meant for more intermediate QuickBooks users. Feel free to ask any questions through the chat function throughout the presentation. We will be responding to them as we go. The questions that we cannot respond to in this webinar, we are happy to address through our no-cost one-on-one services or connect you to resources that can help. We will share a recording and slides of this webinar afterwards. So what is Capital Pathways? It is a program funded by the U.S. Treasury SSBCI initiative, sponsored by the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity, and hosted by the Virginia SBDC and George Mason University. We can start with the program overview, then we will go through the program eligibility and finalize with its services. Capital Pathways is a no-cost specialized SBDC program that helps small businesses build the systems and habits needed to become capital ready. Why does it matter? Being capital ready matters because those less prepared self-select out or fail applications. Early failures correlate to a lack of adequate capital. Higher cost alternatives don't build long-term capacity. Only half of requested amounts reach small businesses. And to put things in perspective, about 25% of small businesses need access to financing for growth and preserving cash flow. However, just 20 to 30% of those who apply for loans actually get their loans approved. Capital Pathways creates a path to financial and legal readiness. Our program offers an immersive, hands-on group experience paired with one-on-one support. Who is eligible? Very small businesses at any stage facing challenges accessing traditional financing. The services that we provide include a guided self-assessment, legal structure validation, financial skills and tools, and loan application readiness. We start with a self-assessment that pinpoints your business key gaps so we can connect you with the right tailored resources either through our Capital Pathways program or other resources that can help. Under our legal structure validation, our in-house advisors can help you through more basic legal questions, and we partner with a law firm which can help you for more complex topics related to business registrations, trademarks, and contracts and agreement reviews. We also offer financial webinars on topics including financial basics, financial statement preparation and analysis, and QuickBooks trainings, like today's. Another one of our offerings includes one-on-one individualized and tailored support on business foundations, profitability and pricing, financial forecasting, financing options and readiness, financial statements and tools, and loan readiness and lender prep. Finally, our loan application readiness services include both webinars and one-on-one individualized support. The webinars are on topics such as what lenders look for in loan applications, interactive mock loan interviews, and sample application analyses, and SBA loan options. We have also a partnership with a lender that provides one-on-one support to those looking for capital. If you are interested in getting started, you can reach out through our website at virginiasbdc.com/program/capital-pathways. Or you can also reach out to me directly at lcastano@gmu.edu. I will send my email and website link in the chat for all of you to have. Now over to introductions. As As mentioned before, my name is Lina Castanos and I am today's moderator. I have a professional background in economic development, small business support, and access to finance projects domestically and internationally. I'm currently both a program lead and a business advisor in the Capital Pathways program. Today's session will consist of a 2-hour presentation. Again, feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation via the chat function. We will be responding to them as we go. We will stop every here and there for questions after each section. The questions that we cannot respond to in this webinar, we are happy to address through our no-cost one-on-one services or connect you to resources that can help. We will share a recording and slides of these webinars afterwards. Now I will give it over to Jamie to introduce herself, tell us a bit about her background, and start her presentation. Thank you, Jamie, for joining us.
Thank you, Lina. And welcome, everyone. I am happy to see a lot of names from QuickBooks 101 in the attendees list right now. So nice to see you all again. Today is QuickBooks 201, Beyond the Basics of QuickBooks Online. And so today we're going to take it a step further into all of the many capabilities that QuickBooks Online has. This structure of this webinar is largely the same as QuickBooks 101, where I'm going to introduce you to an area of QuickBooks Online, and then I'm going to give you 3 to 5 minutes to explore with that, that feature while we and ask questions regarding to it. So what I would love you to do is split your screen, have half of your screen be our Zoom screen so you can see what I'm doing, but the other half, have it be the QuickBooks test drive, okay? Or your own QuickBooks Online account if that's what you would prefer. I certainly prefer the test drive so that you can make mistakes, you can really explore without the repercussions of messing any of your data up. So on this screen right now, you can see the test drive link. You can also just type in QBO test drive and it will get you to the right place. Lina, can you unshare so I can share, please? Thank you. And I also am not sure, Lina, if the chat box is open to everyone, the attendees. If you could just double check that. Would be
Yes,
awesome. Thank you.
thank you for pointing that out.
All right. So hopefully everyone can see Craig's design and landscaping services. I do want to point out this is a free resource within QuickBooks Online. So, excuse me, after today, if you come back a couple weeks from now and you're like, oh, I want to try out this feature, but I don't want to mess up my books, know that this is always available. So you're always able to come in here and fool around, explore, before attempting anything on your own screen. All right. So let's get right into it. So so in QuickBooks 101, right, we talked about the basic workflow of your QuickBooks Online account. We looked at our dashboard. We set up our chart of accounts. We linked our banks. We categorized our transactions. We created rules. We reconciled. And then we started looking at our reports. So if you are a newbie and you snuck into QuickBooks 201, know that you can come back to QuickBooks 101 in the future if those are things that you haven't mastered. But today we're going to be building upon all of those foundations. And the first thing we're going to talk about is something that we're all supposed to do, but I have an inkling that maybe you aren't doing it to the degree necessary, and that is receipts. So you may or may not know this, but as a business owner, you are responsible for saving those receipts for up to 6 years, okay? You can get audited up to 3 years in the past, and they're going to ask for up to 3 years of receipts documentation. So that adds up to the 6 years. Which seems like an awful long time to have to save your receipts, especially if you're talking about um, paper receipts. And so my push to you today is let's move away from those file folders and filing cabinets, and let's figure out a way to save them digitally. Okay. QuickBooks offers you a service within the QuickBooks online subscription for totally free. And I would love to show you how that works. So, if you remember from QuickBooks 101, most of our monthly workflow is found within this transactions tab. So I'm going to go to transactions and receipts. All right. So come on with me over here. So for QuickBooks, there are several different ways that you can get your receipts uploaded into QuickBooks Online. So if you already save your receipts in Google Drive, I can upload, it's not going to let me, but I can add my email and have it come directly from my Google Drive folders. I can also upload receipts from my desktop or my downloads, right, on my computer. One other way that I guess the test drive isn't showing anymore is you can also set up a QuickBooks email where you can forward receipts directly to QuickBooks when you're out and about. So like if you go to that coffee shop and they say, do you want to email an email of your receipt? Instead of sending it to your personal or business email, you can send it directly to QuickBooks so like mine is jdion@qbodocs.com, and it will come directly here. Nobody add any of their receipts over to my QuickBooks, please. um, but and then the final way is that there is an app, a QuickBooks app that you can download on your phone, where you can snap a photo and it will come directly here. Okay, so lots of different ways, and depending on what your business looks and sounds and feels like, hopefully one of those ways works best for you. Okay, and so let me just show you. So I went and grabbed a coffee with a colleague this morning, and so I have my screenshot here. And all I'm going to do, you'll see what QuickBooks is doing is it's using AI to process the file. Okay, so it's looking at all of the data, and what will happen, says it's processed, is we can see that it is now down here, right? So if I click on here, I can see my receipt, all right? Created by, we're in Craig's Landscaping and Design. So this says his name, but right, it would say your name, right, in your real QuickBooks file. It's going to pull the vendor name. This is incorrect, okay? This is actually just something that they have on the bottom of their receipt. And then the amount. The payment account, again, this is Craig's QuickBooks, not mine, but it would link to whatever those last 4 digits are on the receipt to the bank account that is in your QuickBooks file. And then over here, if you have categorized this transaction, it will click match, and it will move this it will attach it to your QuickBooks transactions. Because this one is obviously not matched to Craig, we would want to click review and see, search for that match, right? To match it to one of his transactions. And then if there's anything that's missing, like say you have a receipt that's all crumpled up and some of the information is not readable, that's when you would come here and make any adjustments needed. Okay. So really great, really simple. And then if you make a mistake and you need to come over here, this is where you would be able to see the ones that you've already reviewed. Okay, you can export your receipts too to have. And so that was one of my initial hesitations to using QuickBooks. I felt like I was giving it a lot of a lot of power. having all of my receipts in QuickBooks, but it's actually relatively simple to download those receipts and save them somewhere else as well, if you ever decided to move on from QuickBooks, okay? So what I want you to do now, this is our first little 3-minute work session. I want you to audit what your current receipt management practice is. And if it's nothing, no judgment, you are not alone. Know that you are not alone. How can you make that one step forward to having a better organized system for your receipts? If you are still with paper, like folders and filing cabinets, how could you set this up so that it is digitized, right? Maybe you're just going to move to Google Drive. This is something else I recommend. You could have a Google Drive folder for the year, right? 2025, and then subfolders for each month. And you can drag and drop those receipts per month. Okay, that's another option if you don't want to move to QuickBooks Online. So go ahead and audit your receipt system. How can you make it a little bit tighter? How can you maybe move over from paper to digital? How can you really streamline? And this is the first time for those of you who might have not been with me last time. This is when I'll answer questions. So if you have questions in the chat box, or if you have questions that aren't in the chat box, please come on over and write some questions. So Pillar Wooten says, what about the automatic record from the bank transactions? Is that not the same? Does it not serve the same purpose? So for the bank records, I'm guessing you mean the transactions, right? When we have over here, when we're categorizing. So this really, like if I'm just saying that this is what I have as a record, this really won't hold up very strongly in the case of an audit. They really want an um, itemized receipt, right? To prove that this is a business transaction. Like clearly A1 rental backhoe rental, yes, this is business, but say that coffee that I just downloaded, like how would I really know that that is a business versus personal? And one step further for these receipts is, especially for mine, right? The coffee, it could totally be personal. You want to write down, if I come over here, like in my memo, I really want to write coffee with hope collaboration for webinar or something to prove that it is a business related expense. Same, especially with like Amazon, Food Lion, anything that could definitely be personal and business. We want to make sure that we have that to hold up against an audit. And again, hopefully you never get audited, right? But we want to just have these best practices in place. Yeah, great, Trish. Trish says that whenever possible, I get digital receipts, send them to my email and put them in the dedicated folder. Exactly. We want to just make this as simple as possible to be able to find a receipt when needed. Okay, so if you ever get audited, or even if just your tax preparer wants some verification, right? All they're going to be asking for is show me the receipt for this specific thing. And so if you have a filing cabinet with years and years of just receipts piled in, that's going to be quite the lift to find that correct receipt. But if you do something like clearly in QuickBooks, if it's attached right here, you're going to be able to find it relatively simply, right? I could either search for it up here to find it, or look at the vendor relatively easily to find it, or go to my profit and loss. Same with Google, right? If I have folders that are really nice and neat and organized, that'll be an easy lift to find those. But if we're giving bags and boxes of receipts, that's going to be a little bit more stressful to find that correct receipt. Stephanie says, oh, let me hold on, Stephanie. Michelle. Oh, Michelle, great question. Michelle, we're going to talk about journal entries in just a bit. So she's wondering about interest charges on loans and which are liabilities. Good. Make sure I talk about that for journal entries. What if we don't have a receipt? So really, right? What I say is if you haven't started, if you don't have a receipt to your name at this point, like you've just thrown them away, deleted them, I say start today, okay? Start today with a system and move on and hope for forgiveness in the past, okay? Um, if you get asked for a receipt that you don't have, I want you to Google or search your email, see if you can find it at all costs. But don't go back for the last 5 years of your business and try to get all of the receipts for all those transactions, right? Um, what will happen, again, in the case of an audit, is they will reduce or they will increase your tax liability by that amount. And then you would have to pay taxes on the difference along with penalties and fees. That's typically what happens. So don't stress out. It is a stressful thing, receipts, believe me. But let's start today and move forward with better systems. All right. Jamari says, if you are using a business credit card, the last four digits on the receipt will automatically register under the credit card account and not the bank account. Correct, Jamari. So basically, if we look at hold on. If we look at my receipt, right, you can see my Visa 0595, right? They're going to look at that amount and see what with my banks and my credit cards that are linked, who has the 0595, and it will automatically match. So lots of AI doing good things here in this case, right? All right. Lovely, lovely. I'm already excited with all of the questions. So good job being an active participant. All right, we're going to keep rolling. We're going to now move to another feature that can really be a game changer for your business, and that is recurring transactions. So again, I'm going to emphasize, right? Most everything is in this transactions tab. So if you are overwhelmed with all of these other accounts, right? Go ahead and menu settings, customize, get rid of what you don't need. I don't have payroll. I don't need time. I'm not doing a budget yet, right? I don't need a lend. So that you have only what you need. Okay. We're going to go to recurring transactions. So, recurring transactions are for any transaction, any money movement that you have on a recurring or regular basis for the same amount. Okay. If I click plus new, you can see all of the different recurring transactions I can make. So bills, right? If we think about different bills we have our rent, utilities, software, maybe maybe you have a contractor who bills you monthly, right? All of these we can create so that we can have better cash flow forecasting. Checks, maybe you cut a check to someone for the same amount daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Um, Estimates. This is a big one for my contractors. If you're giving a service that you want to have the template built out and you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you make a new estimate, this would be something that we would want to create. Think about recurring transactions almost more like a template than necessarily like a recurring like sorry, like clearly scheduled thing. I'll show you this in a moment. Expenses, invoicing. This is a big one. I use this a lot for my business, right? I have monthly recurring revenue coming in from my ongoing bookkeeping clients. I'm able to set up an invoice for each of my clients and have that go out automatically without me having to touch anything. They know the fee that they're going to be paying every single month, and that invoice can go out. Journal entries. This is something we're going to talk about in terms of breaking up mortgage interest and and principal, right? You can see sales receipts. This is if you basically you are processing a payment. So lots of different recurring transactions. We can see that Craig, he has his rent and his telephone bill set up to be a bill every single month that he needs to pay. It's the same amount, and he's then able to pay through bill pay on QuickBooks every month without having to add this. One that I think is really really helpful, right? Like, so if you are a small business and you have a contractor, let's say, let's say Pam, okay, that we pay for multiple things every month. So Pam is a cost, she goes out and does some of the labor, but she's also an administrator, right? She's doing the work for us. You can set it up so that you have several different accounts that this expense is going towards without having to split up the transaction every time it comes out. So I might have her do $100 of advertising each month. Let's see if he doesn't have labor. She gives me $500 worth of labor each month, and I don't know what they have. No, I don't want that. And also, let's say she's our bookkeeper and we pay her $250 a month, right? So instead of just saying that Pam is a wages employee, I'm able to break this up so that these different amounts go to each of the different accounts on my P&L, so I can really see what is getting broken up, what I'm spending money on. Does that make sense? So go ahead and fiddle with this. If you look, like if I do an expense, I can also say the interval, right? Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. So maybe you have a yearly expense like your registration that you want to have on here that's only yearly. You could add it just for once a year. You'll pick your start date, when that's going to happen, how you're going to be paying it, which bank, and then fill in these details. Okay. You can also do it unscheduled. So this is maybe for my estimate people, right? My contractors who are sending out lots of estimates. You're able to set this up and then save it as a template. So if this is like my custom work that I'm doing, right? So it's $500, say. Again, I'm rushing. But then when I want to use this, I'm able to just click use, and then I can customize it for who my customer is, what exactly is there. But I'm able to have this as a template for moving forward and forward and forward. We do this a lot. I do this a lot for my clients with journal entries for if you have like a Square POS system or Shopify, PayPal to account for your sales tax, your refunds, your Square fees, your gift cards, right? All of those expenses that aren't included in that deposit that you receive, we're able to add a recurring journal entry to have this as a template. To pick apart those numbers and be able to account for them in the correct income and expense categories. All right, so go ahead, see if you can create a couple of recurring transactions. Can you create a recurring bill for something that you pay every month? All right, see if you can do that. If you have recurring income, see if you can create either a recurring invoice or a sales receipt for someone who pays you monthly. All right, see what that looks like, and keep asking questions. All right, 3 more minutes, go for it. Janaya, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Back to receipts for a moment. She says, so if there is no receipt, is it not possible to just show your bank statement? That's really not best practice. That being said, if you can defend the expense and show that it's a regular, an ordinary expense for your business, the auditor could let it slide. Okay. But really, really, really for business owners, this is a responsibility for us. We should be keeping our receipts. All right. Tony. We employ variable pricing and multiple options to choose from, making our invoices quite complex. Our accounting manager is convinced we are a unicorn that no software can help us. Oh no, we currently use spreadsheets only. Yeah. Tony, it sounds like you and me need to have a one-on-one after this. But what I would say is we're going to go to invoicing next to kind of go over what that looks like. If QuickBooks isn't for you, for your business, for your unicorn, I would recommend looking at Anchor, Anchor. That is my top choice for complex invoicing. But yeah, we can talk about that. But yeah, go ahead and see. Maybe can you make, Tony, a couple different templates for your invoices? Like if you have several different variable pricing models, could you create one for your top tier, one for your middle tier, one for your low tier? Or is it even more complicated than that? And if it's more complicated than that, then definitely go check out Anchor. All right. Any other questions about recurring transactions? This saves me hours and hours and hours of time every month. Okay. Here's another one, expense. So mortgage, right? If you have a fixed cost of what goes to or interest, what goes to interest, what goes to principal, if that's fixed, sometimes it's not, right? You could create an expense that every time your $100 or $1,000 mortgage payment comes in, can you put 193 towards interest and the seven, don't make me do math on here, not 816 over to principal, right? That's another way that you could be using this so that you don't have to do the math over and over and over again. All right. So like I mentioned, invoicing, if you have a recurring business model, okay? Also, one thing for the invoicing, right? If I create a recurring invoice, like say that you do payment plans, okay? You can have it end on either how many occurrences, right? After 5 payments, turn it off, right? Or on a certain date. Like if this is you want to get paid weekly, but the last payment is on, right, the end of November. You can do it that way. So if you're doing payment plans, this is a great way, excuse me, to keep that really clean and for you to still be hands off. Okay? So this brings me to invoicing. This is my soapbox area of bookkeeping because I see so much time and money wasted on invoicing. So my biggest recommendation for you today is we want to make sure that you are making it as easy as possible for your customers to pay you. Okay. I can't tell you the amount of times that I, as a consumer, have had experiences where I chose to not have recurring um, experiences with businesses based on their payments settings structure. Okay, so for example, I just had my water well fixed maybe 3 months ago, and they only accepted checks. Okay. I couldn't pay by ACH. I couldn't pay by um, credit card. They only wanted a check. And I didn't have a check. Okay. My husband had the checks. So I had to wait till he got home, write a check, put it in the mail. Right. Was that an easy experience for me? Absolutely not. Will I be using that company again? Absolutely not. However, when I had my hot water heater fixed a couple weeks ago, right? I was able to tap it right where when they were working on it. I got a survey afterwards. I was pleased. I am going to use that contractor again. Okay. So we want to make it as easy as humanly possible for your customers to pay you so that you not only get paid, right, to reduce our receivables, but also so that you have those repeat experiences with customers. Okay. Um, I understand that using a POS, a payment processing system, costs you fees, right? I get that. I absolutely understand that. But I think that this is something that we have to just live with as business owners and build that into your price. Okay. I think it's not going away, right? And we want to, number one, get paid quickly. And number two, we want to have that good customer experience. Okay. So a solution, long story short, a solution is QuickBooks Online. Okay. So you can invoice your customers directly through QuickBooks. Okay. Um, and check this out, right? Look at this nice dashboard. It's going to help you as the business owner also keep track of your receivables. I won't ever forget working with one of my SBDC clients, and she had forgotten to send out a $6,000 check. Sh Invoice, sorry, a $6,000 invoice. She was a solopreneur, just her, and she forgot about $6,000 worth of receivables, okay? That is a big that's a big mistake. That's a huge mistake. And if you can set things up in an organized way like this, right? That won't happen. Okay, or it's much less likely to happen. So this is your dashboard for invoicing, okay? And you can clearly see what's going on, right? I have $1,500 worth of overdue invoices. I should probably be checking on these and seeing who I need to be calling, right? This was due 2 months ago. I need to call Red Rock Diner and see what the deal is. I can see what's coming through the funnel, right? $3,700 is going to be due in the next 30 days. $2,000 someone has paid, but it hasn't come into my bank account yet. This is what this means. They've clicked the payment link, but it hasn't physically been deposited into my account. And then the $1,600, this is money that we can just say like the whole transaction is complete. I've sent the invoice, they've paid, it's in my bank, all done, right? And this is all for the last 30 days, right? You can customize this to see what's overdue, right? Who do I need to be calling? Where's the rest of these payments? Something that's really neat that we can see over here, we can see when it's been opened, when the initial payment's been received. We can also, I don't think any of these are going to show it. Yeah, we can see here. We can see when and how many times an invoice has been viewed. So this is one of my favorite features to see, like if someone's been looking at it for 30 different instances, like what's going on, what's holding them up from making this payment. Should I reach out? Do they need a payment plan, right? Maybe they're overwhelmed with the cost, they want to do it, but they're not, they need a payment plan. So being able to see this back end information, I think is really, really helpful. When you create the invoice, some other time saving features, right? Once you add the customer for the first time, it will add all of their payment information, their address, all of that good stuff. It's going to customize your invoice terms based on what you have set up. Remember, you should be going to that gear icon in accounts and settings and setting up all these features where you can turn on, like if you're going to give a discount, your sales tax, all of these different customizations that saves you tons of time from physically typing up an invoice in a PDF format, right? For products and services, you'll create these once and then you can add it with the rates, and then you can just customize how many they're purchasing, right, to get to that total. If it has tax, again, it's going to do the math, hopefully for us. It will do it for yours, to say what the sales tax is that needs to be collected, okay? If you have a complex situation for your invoicing, right, then what you could do is set up these products and services in a way that makes sense, and then customize as you need, adding descriptions. Okay. So also, I was just doing a training the other day, and they said, "But this doesn't look like my business." You can customize. You can add a logo. You can customize. That's not what I want. Um, they change everything so frequently. Ah, this is not what I want. It must be over here now. No. But over here, if we go to your gear, accounts and settings, and then our sales, all of this is based on your invoicing. Do you want to charge a late fee? Do you want to accept progress invoicing? What do you want the language to look like in your invoice? Okay, you get to customize everything so that it looks, sounds, and feels like your business. Okay, go ahead and explore the invoicing feature. If you are on a POS system, say you're in retail and you're selling in Square, Shopify, I want you to go and see what happens when those deposits come into your bank account. What information do you have? And would we need to do a journal entry to move those funds to the right places? Okay. If you're on paper pencil still or PDFs, right? See if you can create an invoice and what would it look like in QuickBooks. Okay. Um, if you need some estimates, if you're a contractor, go ahead and look at the estimates feature, see what that looks like. One of the beautiful things about estimates is that you can then automatically convert them into an invoice. So basically, all of this information just gets moved over to an invoice format. Again, saving you tons and tons and tons of time. All right, go ahead and ask the questions. Susan, yes, if you need more basic support, we can absolutely work on that either one-on-one, or we have QuickBooks 101 again next month. I think it's the 6th. 6th. So whatever works best for you. So Pillar, back to recurring, says the recurring transactions template are for record keeping purposes, correct? Does it interfere with the accounting? I'm worried about double entries. So for the recurring transactions templates, like if you create the say like the rent or the utilities payments, we're going to match them to when the transaction physically comes. So it doesn't double entry. Basically what it's doing is it's helping you with the cash flow, right? So if I'm looking at my bank balance and I see I have $10,000, QuickBooks is actually going to show me that I only have $700 because I have my rent payment, my utilities payment, my contract labor payments. So I really only have $7,000 worth of wiggle room. Good question. All right. Tracy says she loves checks. We love checks, no service fees. Here's another thing, Tracy. Okay. So you can set this up so that you don't receive payments in QuickBooks. So if you're like, we're not doing it, Jamie, we are sticking to we're sticking to checks, not doing it. You can turn off, right? So this is already turned off because this is our dummy account, but you can turn off accepting payment methods and still send your invoices via QuickBooks so that they get it virtually, right? They get it digitally. And then you can write a note here, please send checks, right? To whatever your address is, or please pay via Venmo at this account. Even if you're like, nope, not doing it, right? At least you'll have this really nice dashboard to see where your outstandings are. Okay. I meet with a lot of people that are like, I have no idea. I've got a bunch of invoices on my desktop and I could add them up if I wanted to, but I have no idea. I don't have time. Right. Being able to see what's outstanding is really, really important for your cash flow, especially as you grow and get bigger. Right. We want to make sure that we can clearly see what the funnel is of sales coming in. Okay. And then I would also say, right, raise your rates, Tracy. It's okay to build those service fees into your cost. Okay. If you need to. Or you should, honestly. Does anyone use anything else other than like a POS system or QuickBooks that they really enjoy? I'll also say if you're already using like Square for POS and you do send out some invoices, the Square interface is great to do everything in Square. So again, this is QuickBooks 201. We're talking about QuickBooks today, but know that there are other options. We want to make it as easy as possible for you all to get your accounting side of the job done. Sorry, Tracy, I'm picking on you. She says that she does use QuickBooks estimates and invoicing, but they accept credit and they do accept credit cards. We just love checks. Yes, I get it. I get it. All right, we're going to move to another feature of QuickBooks Online called classes and locations. So classes and locations, you need to have the plus subscription level for. And many of you might not be ready for this yet, but I think it's really good to know about this so that you can forecast for the future of where you hope to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? So to turn on classes and locations, you have to physically turn it on. So we're going to go to this gear icon, accounts and settings, advanced, and we're going to come down here towards categories, and I'm going to turn on classes. Okay. Let me explain the difference between classes and locations. Okay. So classes, so I guess let me tell you what these do. So classes and locations are great if you have several different segments of your business that you want to track your income and expenses for separately. So this is great if you have short-term rentals or long-term rentals and you need to track your income and expense by rental location. This is great if you have 2 or more physical restaurants, yoga studios, wineries, right, breweries, that you want to track the the revenue and expense for. This is great if you are, we shouldn't have any nonprofits here, but if you're a nonprofit and you need to track your income and expenses by grants, right, or by restricted and unrestricted funds. This is great if you are maybe a bookkeeper and you have a bookkeeping side of your business and a consulting side of your business, and you want to be tracking those very separately. We don't want to do it on like a project by project base. There's actually something called projects in QuickBooks Online that we would be using for that. But if you have two or more core, very separate parts of your business, this might be something to turn on. Okay. So classes is going to let us account for different segments of our business within one transaction. So this is great if you are a construction business and you go to Lowe's and you buy $250 towards the Charlottesville location of your business and $400 towards the Richmond branch of your business, right? I would be able to take that one Lowe's transaction and code the two different parts to two very separate places. The locations one, this one you can't split up transactions, but this one you can tag all of your balance sheet accounts to locations. So you can have a location for all of your assets, your mortgages, your liabilities, all of that kind of stuff. I find that the classes is typically the better one to choose. Okay. And I like to turn on Warn Me when a transaction isn't assigned to a class so that we want to be consistent, right? We want to make sure that we're assigning a class every single time. So I'm going to click Save. And then I'm going to go again to my gear. And I'm going to go to All Lists. And I'm going to now, I need to add my classes, right? Like what are the two separate transactions that I'm going to need? And so I'm going to keep this themed with Craig. And I'm going to say that he has a Charlottesville branch of his landscaping, and he has a Richmond branch of his landscaping. Okay. Now, when I go back to my transactions, bank transactions, okay, let's say that this rental, so remember I'm adding a vendor name, and this is an equipment rental. And the $1,200 one was for Charlottesville. And the $800 one was for Richmond, right? A1 Rental Equipment, Richmond. Then I'm able to run my report. I'm going to do P&L by class. And now I can see, right, my variability between Charlottesville and Richmond for my equipment rental. Obviously, this is not very valuable information yet, right? Because I have all of this that's not specified. But if you're able to have all of your information split up by the location, by the class, by the grant, whatever you're splitting up, then you're able to make some really good informed decisions based on your full business and then the smaller branches. Like if I were just to look at these, I'd be like, what's going on with Charlottesville? Why do we have so much more in equipment rentals than Richmond? Should we be purchasing an asset? Should we look for a different, is this a shipping cost, right? Is this a transportation cost that caused this to be so much higher? You're able to kind of look more analytically at your data. Okay. This isn't for everybody, right? My business, I don't need this. I don't have two very separate sides of my business. But you might. Okay. So go ahead and explore. Go ahead and see if you can add some classes. So first off, turn the class on, then add a couple classes and see what happens for your reporting. Again, you're in Craig's landscape design, so no worries if you mess something up. Go ahead and just play. So Stephanie, if you don't have turning class categories as an option, yeah, that definitely means that you don't have the right subscription level. So I would get over to the test drive and just play with it. Again, maybe you don't need it yet, but if you did want it, we would have to upgrade to Plus. Pillar says, will this work for two different departments within my business? For example, renovation jobs versus demolition jobs. I would say if those are your two core offerings, right? And you care a lot about seeing what your profitability and your expenses, your revenue looks like, then this would be a that would be a great example. Um, yeah, I think that makes sense to me, right? I would want to see what my cost of goods sold for both the job materials and my repair cost, I'm sorry, my contract labor costs would be. That would make sense to me, right? Especially if you are going to do this analytical work, okay, if this matters to you. Go ahead and explore for another minute. Janaya says, would you recommend to use the classes and locations for a business that has a main name but is also using a DBA? Yes, yes, yep. So the best practice is that if you have basically you should have one QBO account per EIN that you have, right? But if you have a main business and a DBA that are both under that umbrella EIN, then this would be a great way to separate the main business from the DBA. Yeah. And I will say that I have seen business owners who have multiple businesses get pretty scrappy with figuring out how to have two businesses under one account. There are ways that you can set it up so that you can run one P&L for one business and then another for the other under one QuickBooks. Again, that's not what QuickBooks wants you to do. That's not what the IRS wants you to do. But if you're interested in being scrappy, you could definitely figure out a way. All right, let's keep rolling. So the next spot we're going to go, we touched upon it just a bit, but we're going to spend a little bit more time on it now, is our journal entries. So to get to journal entries, we're going to do a plus new, and then it's over here. It's kind of hidden, probably intentionally because you can get into a lot of trouble with journal entries. So journal entries, to give you, let's rewind a little bit, right? So we are in the day and age where we have software like QuickBooks who does a lot of the back end QuickBooks accounting for us, right? So even though we can go to our bank feed and just say Canva advertising and marketing expense and press click, and it seems like we just did one thing, really what QuickBooks is doing is two things. Number one, they're taking money out of your checking account and then they're moving it over into your expense advertising account, right? They're taking money from one place and they're moving it over, they're paying Canva for that. And so there's always two places that money comes and goes to, right? So think of it almost like a flow of funds. And we call that double entry accounting, basically, right? Taking something from one place and moving it to the other. This still happens when you receive payments, right? It comes from your customer and goes into your checking account, or they write, however you get paid, right? And so there always needs to be two places that the money comes from and goes to. And so that is what journal entries do for funds that don't go through a checking or a credit card account, right? We have no way of getting those feeds that come automatically from your checking to QuickBooks for some excuse me, for some cash expenses. So for example, how someone was saying the interest, right, for a loan, we want to move the loan interest from your loan into the profit and loss as an interest expense, right? Right now it's all going to your loan. We want to move that. So I will show you that example. But some other examples are, for example, if you pay for something with personal funds, right? Let's pretend that coffee I thought was going to be a personal expense, but it ended up being a business conversation. So now I need to add it here, even though I paid from my personal account. These are reasons that we would add a journal entry. Now, it would be simple enough if all debits did the same thing, right? If all debits increased the amount and all credits decreased the amount, that'd be great, right? We could work our way around that. However, accounting can't be that simple. So that means that some accounts, right? We think about our 5 different account types: income, expenses, assets, liabilities, equity. Some of those accounts increase when you debit them, and some decrease when you debit them. And so you all are business owners, you're not accountants. And so, what I recommend you do anytime you need to create a journal entry is to Google. All right, I'm going to come over here. Debits and credits. And you can see over here, right? I'm not the only person doing this. Lots of people are doing this. To look and find a cheat sheet like this that's going to tell you, do you need to increase the expense account, right? Did you add an expense? Then we need to debit it, okay? Or the opposite, right? Am I paying myself back? Then I'm going to decrease it. So if I'm over here, right? Let's say that Craig just opened up his Richmond branch of his Craig's Landscaping and Design, and he got some new business cards printed from Canva. So I'll put the date. For journal information in general, I try to have as much information as possible for these because this is manually adding them, right? Like we want to have some type of source document attached so that we can prove that this actually happened just outside of my checking or credit card account. So I'm going to put the exact date, and I'm going to put Canva. I like to put the vendor. And this is an advertising expense, and he paid $120. And here I'm going to put 500 business credit cards for Richmond location. Okay, I'm going to tag Richmond for my class. I'm going to add Canva as a vendor. Oh, that just added as a customer. That's okay. And then this is an owner's investment, right? So you should have this one. I think I told you in QuickBooks 101, it's odd that they don't have it. Owner's investment is an equity account, owner's equity. I'm going to save it. And then it's going to fill it in. I'm going to add an attachment here. Let's just pretend this is the attachment. Okay, so I have everything there. This is my source document. I'm ready to go. I'm going to click save and close. Okay, I'm going to click save and new this time because someone mentioned about interest, right? Mortgage interest or loan interest. And so if you have a loan on your balance sheet and you're putting that payment all to the loan every month, right? That's pretty common for people to do. Now, that payment that you pay towards your loan, your mortgage, whatever, that's not all principal, right? That's not lowering your balance. A lot of that is interest. And so we want to move that over into an interest expense, which is a business deduction. So this, he doesn't have this either. Interest paid, okay. This is another common one you should have, right? This is an expense. Interest paid. You're going to move it, right? Maybe it's $500. Hopefully not that much, right? So 10, 15, 25, loan interest. And then you're going to move it from his loan. Okay, so I'm going to say And this would probably be the end of the month, right? So I'm moving it for moving loan interest to P&L. Okay, probably more specific than I am right here. And this is the loan for opening up Richmond again. This is the Richmond loan. Okay, maybe I'm adding the loan balance history that I got, right? And save and close. Okay, so again, journal entries are for anything that you can't, and we can look down here now. Oh gosh, because I did it for later, that's why. Where did it go? Yeah, right here. Right, so I have this now as an expense on here, and you can see my advertising for my my business cards is also recognized as an expense now. Okay. So for journal entries, we're thinking about interest, we're thinking about escrow payments, we're thinking about personal cards, we're thinking about POS journal entries, pulling apart your deposits that you receive, right? That's your income, that's your square fees, that's your gift cards, that's your refunds, all of that. We would be using a journal entry for that. Okay. Go ahead and explore. This is probably the most complicated thing that you should have to do in QuickBooks, our journal entries. So go ahead and fool around, see where these numbers come. What I tell new people that if you're doing a journal entry, after you do it, come look at your P&L and balance sheet. Make sure it's not a negative, right? Make sure it didn't go the wrong direction than what you wanted. All right, 3 minutes, go for it. So Jamari says, is if you recorded interest paid expense in as a journal entry, is that the same thing as adding it under credit card charges credits section in QuickBooks? No. So that definitely, so if you, good question, Jamari. I think I know what you're saying. If you have an expense that comes through your credit card, right? Like if I go to bank transactions, and if I'm in my MasterCard, I don't think he's going to have one, but let's say that this says MasterCard, right? And it says interest paid. So credit cards are doing this math for you, right? We would put this to interest paid and call it a day. You don't need to do anything for a credit card payment because they're pulling that interest on their own, right? That they're they're counting your interest as an expense, right? So you don't need to do anything. The reason that you would need to do a journal entry is for really any loan, right? When you have, like, say, let's just pretend this Pam, right, is a payment towards one of his payables, right? If I put this to a loan payable, the $75, that $75 is not reducing my loan amount by a full $75, right? It's reducing it probably by like $50, and the other $25 is the interest. And so we don't want, if I move this all over here, then I need to move the $25 back over as an interest expense. Okay. If you have, if you are going to be on top of it every month, you could also split it up. So I could click on split transaction and say $50 is my loan and $25 is the interest that I paid on the loan, right? That would also count. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the journal entry, you could also split it up under as a within the transaction. So a couple different ways. But no, most every credit card now, they're going to just take it out of your account. They're going to add it as an expense. So that saves you a little bit of time. But journal entries, you're gonna want to add those for any startup costs that you paid for before you started your business, if you're a new business. Um, cash, right? Cash payments, personal business payments that you put on personal. Journal entries are the way that you're going to want to add that into QuickBooks. Always as a journal, as an owner's investment. So Jamar has a follow-up saying, so we don't really need to use the enter credit card purchase charges on QuickBooks. Are you talking about over here, credit card credit? So remember, I hope I'm answering this for you. So remember, you're gonna want to link your credit card the same way that you link your banks, right? So if you have a bunch of credit cards, you want to link all of them to QuickBooks, and they're going to pull in all of the transactions, right? We really don't need to be doing any journal entries for anything credit card related. The credit card credit, this is if you have a refund on your credit card or if they give you reward points that somehow didn't get on to your bank, onto your credit card statement pulling through. But really they most times do. Okay, you really don't need to touch this. I don't have to touch it very often at all. Okay, that's only if you're manually adding things and not having your credit card linked. Oh, so that's probably your problem, Jamari. We need to move you over to QuickBooks Online. But still, you should, but you should still be able to link your credit cards. And so I wouldn't be doing too many manual things for credit card based items. Okay, we're gonna keep rolling. So now we're gonna go to our reporting. So come back over to standard reports with me. And sorry, I'm ahead of schedule, so you guys need to ask some more questions. So I wanted to show you a couple of the more advanced reports that can really be some game changers when you're looking at your information, all right, when you're looking at your data. So yes, we talked about last time the balance sheet and the profit and loss, right? You should be looking at that profit and loss at least monthly. I had someone last week say that they looked at it weekly, and I gave him a gold star. That's awesome. Um, but I think monthly is a good expectation, a good workflow. But there are some other reports that can really help you to identify some outliers. And so I want us to look right now at the P&L as percentage of total income. And so this is one of the reports that I often look at first with the clients that I'm advising to see if there's any clear outliers. And so as you can see, what we have here, we're going to just focus on the income first, is we have their total income, right? $10,000, which is 100% of all their income. And then we're able to break up the income into the different revenue accounts. And so I think I mentioned last time, I think Craig has maybe a little bit too many income accounts. But if you can be intentional about splitting up your income accounts, just like someone who was saying, like renovation versus demolition jobs, right? If you can make sure that your income is separated between those two different incomes, you'll be able to see not only what percentage of income you have, but then also where your expenses are lying too, right? So if I look at Craig, what are you guys seeing? Like, to me, there's a couple of outliers where I'm like, why don't we just stop providing that service? Right? Like pest control, is it worth it having that as an offering when we probably need someone trained in pest control services? We're probably buying chemicals or special product for that service. To me, for 1% of my revenue over the last year, I would just cut that and focus on what's bringing me in more money, right? Some people in the other class were saying that, ooh, maintenance and repair, like that's really low. But again, we need to think about our business collectively, right? What are our customers going to say if we install some fountains and garden lighting, but we won't come fix it after after it breaks, right? We probably need to keep that service. So sometimes it's a larger conversation than just looking at the numbers. Okay. And then as we go down, like his cost of goods sold, I would say this is like 5 star, right? That's really low. That's great. I'm happy to see that only 4% of his income is going to cost of goods sold. We really want we're striving for like 30 to 50 is like the safe spot. Anything over 50, we definitely have a problem. Um, Something else I want to keep top of mind for you all is this is like very general. Something that we can do through this program and also SBDC is give you some industry standards reports so that you can see more closely like what other businesses in your industry are doing in terms of percentage. Okay, so like my cost of goods sold is 0 as a bookkeeping firm, but obviously a restaurant is going to be much higher, right? We're going to be closer to that 50%. Um, and then looking at all of your operational costs, what should we be focusing attention towards? What can we cut? Um, what do we need to find a separate distributor for possibly? Really just looking closely. So when I look at this, I think Craig's doing a pretty good job in terms of his percentage of income. This over here is not great, right? Miscellaneous, that account category, you really don't want to use as, at all, because that is not aligned with what's on the 1040 Schedule C, your tax form that you're going to fill out. So we need to find a home for this $3,000. And so if Craig was real, I would tell him, okay, you need to go into this account, figure out where all these go, and then let's look at your reporting again. Some areas that get out of whack really quickly, and his are fine, but something that you want to look at yours. How much are you spending on advertising? This cost can go up really, really quick. Your labor costs, right? I'm thinking his are right here. So really low for him, but those can get really high. And your softwares, which I'm guessing his are right here too, which is very low, but you want to make sure that you're auditing this to make sure that nothing is that you're spending too much money on anything. I would wonder for him, right, with equipment repairs, like is it time with almost 10% of his income going towards equipment repairs and equipment rentals? Oh, wow, look at equipment rentals. 20%. I'd be thinking about should we be maybe purchasing some assets rather than continuing to rent, right? That seems pretty high to me too. So by seeing these percentages, right, we're able to see more clearly where the money is going, not as easily if we're just looking at the actual physical numbers. All right. The other report I want to show you today is the profit and loss year-to-date comparison. So this one, okay, because they only give us 1 year's worth of work or data, we don't have much of a comparison at all. But when you run it, once we have a couple of years worth of data in here, you'll be able to see where you're at today, year to date, compared to where you were last year at exactly this time. And so I find that this report is really humbling too, to see where you might have gotten out of control with your expenses, and maybe with your income too, right? I just ran this report for myself a couple weeks ago, and my software expenses have more than doubled since this time last year. And so I have gotten a little click happy with getting softwares. And so now it's my job to say, okay, should I cut softwares? Is it resulting in enough increase of revenue to support that? I'm able to to make those tougher decisions of where I should go next. Am I okay with less profitability? Is it saving me more time? Right? All of those questions I'm now asking based on this report. All right, so go ahead and explore the profit and loss as percentage of total income. Remember, you can adjust for the dates that you want to see, right? Like maybe you've made a big change in your business over the last couple of months and you just want to see last quarter to see what's going on. Do that. Or the year to date comparison. Okay. If you're like, nope, neither of those work, go ahead and scan the many other reports that are in here. See if anything else would be really helpful for you as the business owner. And I'll keep answering questions if you have them. Don't be quiet now. Ask your questions. All right. I have 3 more places I want us to go really quickly, and then we're gonna use the last half hour for, any questions that you have specifically that I might have not answered, anything that we didn't really touch upon that you wanna know about, anything like that, okay? So I am a huge proponent of setting up your systems so that you can work smarter and not harder. And so QuickBooks is intentional about this, where they're trying to make this your one-stop shop as well. So one of the offerings, and I got rid of it, that QuickBooks offers. Oh, come on, QuickBooks. They're not gonna let me get in there? Hold on a second. QuickBooks. All right. Well, this is less than ideal. Um, is payroll. So payroll, right? Hopefully, if the goal is to expand your QuickBook, to expand your business. Let me see if I can load this. Eventually, it will be time for you to hire on staff. And so QuickBooks offers, let me see if I can just have this one. There we go. Okay. QuickBooks offers an in-house payroll solution. Of course, we can't get to it for your company. So you can basically do anything W-2 payroll related directly in QuickBooks, giving them benefits, giving them retirement, giving them health insurance, workers' comp. You can see here, basically a one-stop shop. QuickBooks Payroll costs you about $50 base plus about $6 to $8 per employee that is enrolled. That's pretty standard across all payroll softwares. There are a couple like Patriot, I know is a little bit cheaper. ADP is a little bit cheaper. But ballpark, that is what it's going to cost you. The benefit of doing it is in QuickBooks is then recording all of your tax filings and payments directly in QuickBooks, so you don't have to worry about manually adding that information. So that's the benefit. I honestly, my top choice is Gusto, Gusto, but they all largely do the same thing. I would say that I find paying for a software for payroll to be absolutely positively worth it compared to having to file and pay manually through the state and Fed websites, which are a bit awful. So just something to keep in the back of your mind if you're not ready to hire anyone yet, but this is something that's included, or not included, but you're able to use through QuickBooks. Further, they also, let's see if I can add this one back. Okay, I guess I need to do it one at a time here. They also offer something called QuickBooks Time, which this would be incorporated on your app, right? You can see it here. The same way that the payroll is, or the receipt capture, all of that good stuff. And so you would be able to have your employees clock in and clock out. You could do the geo tracking as well, so you can make sure that they're where they need to be if that's a caution or a problem with your staff for some reason. And then they're also able to take notes within it. And here's something good for my contractor people. You're able to have them clock in for specific jobs or projects too. So if you're doing job costing, you can have this information sync to your larger QuickBooks file, so you can see your profitability by job, including labor costs, which I think is definitely a game changer and really, really informative in terms of making those estimates in the future, right? Making sure that we're always very profitable. Further, when we have their timesheet over here will sync to payroll, and then you, as the business owner, would just need to click like confirm, approve, and then you're ready to pay them. So again, this is helping you to have that one-stop shop um, for your payroll services when you get there. You can also do 1099 contractors if that's where you're at this point, and they will send the 1099s for you as well. I think with a small fee that's incorporated. A couple of other areas that are important here. So sales tax, right? If you are selling a good, right, you're liable for collecting and remitting sales tax to the state. So as you create invoices, you're able to say if those products or services are taxable or not. And then QuickBooks will have here what your total tax collected is per month. Then you'll be able to go file and pay to the state. Okay, so it helps you to keep really organized here. They do not file and pay for you, but they do keep everything nice and neat. You're able to click that you paid it so that you're sure that your workflow is working. Okay. The last thing, let's see if they let me do this one. How silly. I had to do them all just separately. The last thing is budgets, okay? I know that sometimes we think that budgets are really far from who we are as business owners. I was there at one point where I was like, this is for the big time people. But creating a budget in QuickBooks can be really helpful to track where you're at compared to your prospect, right? So there's lots of different ways to create your budget. You can create it consolidated, which is like basic, or you can subdivide based on the customers that you have. If you have like big time customers that you want to track it, or classes again, right? I want a Charlottesville budget compared to a Richmond budget. And then I can pull information from my previous data, right? So if 2024 was a really good year, I could pull the data from that year to create the initial budget for me. Again, they don't have any data in here, right? But they would, right? This would all be here. So I could see my actuals and create the budget totals for the next year. And so what's cool, right? If I hope to make $100,000 of design income for the year, I can have it go and say that this is the amount I want to make every month. Or I can adjust this and say, okay, well, I'm going to have it really ramped up by December, but down here it's probably going to be a lot smaller, right? Um, so you can really customize this any way that you'd like. And then there is a budget versus actuals report that will pull from any, and again, you can make it this really simple too and just do budget for the year. Like you don't need to do it monthly the way that I was just doing it. You can also do it quarterly. You can then run a budget versus actual to see where you're at any time within the year. And so they'll pull just from year to date too. So you'll be able to see exactly where you should be for the year compared to where you actually are. Okay, so something to fool around with, something to consider. I used to think that, like, again, budgets were for big time, but they're not, right? I think it's really important that you create a budget so that you can get to that next level of your business if that's where you want to go. All right. So Kathy says I missed it. Where do you get it? So you have it over on the left toolbar, but you could also click on the gear in budgeting. I think you have to have essentials for budgeting. But double check on that. You might be able to do it even with the lowest level, the simple start. Okay. All right. So I'm hoping you all have gained something over the last hour and a half in terms of moving your QuickBooks Online file to the next level. Again, there is so much within here that we still haven't even gone over, right? There's so many different capabilities. And if you get proficient at using your QuickBooks, this is going to really be a game changer, right? You're paying for the software. I want you to be using it well so that you can get everything that you need out of it. Okay. If you skipped QuickBooks 101 and you need help with the workflows, come back and hang out with me next month. If you need some one-on-one support, know that you and I can meet in the near future to go over some of this. If you feel like you're good to go, you're ready to be set free, then I wish you the best. All right, I will stay on for the next 27 minutes if anyone has any questions, would like to see any other areas. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Maybe let's give 5 more minutes for people to raise their hand and ask any questions on the chat. If we don't have any questions, maybe we can end the call a little early.
Sounds great with me. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I see one hand. Let's see, whose hand is this?
Let me see if I can allow people to speak.
Shoot.
Susan, would you like to go on the mic?
Yeah. Hello.
Hi,
Can you hear me
Susan.
now? Hey, thank you. It was a very informative class. I really appreciate it. But I just missed the first class, as I told you. So should I wait for next month or should I make up one-on-one appointment with you?
I would say so. The next one is what did you say, Lena? November 4th. Do you want?
Mhm.
Is that okay to wait till then? Do you want to get on the QuickBooks 101?
Yeah. So where did I find that November 4, or are you guys sending email? The link.
I sent it over the chat, but I will send it again.
To make a one-on-one appointment or for the November 4 meeting?
I'll send both.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thanks, Lena. I'll see you there, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Jamari, thank you for the kind words.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. You guys can do this. Yes, Grace, the slide deck and the recording, Sheila will be sending out, what did she say, within a week? Lena, is that the
Yes, that's
expectation?
usually within a few days, but definitely within a week.
Awesome. Anyone else have any questions? Thank you. Yes, only QuickBooks 101 and 201, Jamari. Are you ready for QuickBooks 301? Do I need to create a new workshop? What are you thinking? Yes. Oh my gosh. I might need to hire you people. You looking for a part-time job, Jamari? Thank you, everybody.
All right. I don't see any more questions coming in. I would like to thank Jamie again for such a great present and informative presentation. I think we've all learned a few things today. So thank you so much for that, Jamie. And she will be back November 4th. I sent that link in the chat. You can also uh, reach out for one-on-one support. I also sent that link in the chat. Hoping everyone has a great rest of their days and can enjoy some lunch now.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.